Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tucker, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the Golden State Warriors, of course, but this time it's going to be in an NBA trade machine format. We just talked last week about the team holding the #1 overall pick in the draft in the Minnesota Timberwolves, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the team with the #2 overall pick. And of course, the Warriors are an incredibly interesting team to watch this offseason because they have not only that #2 overall pick, but other assets as well as on this roster that could potentially result in a significant upgrade for them as they look to be a true championship contender next year with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson both coming back from injury, Draymond Green still there as well, the championship pedigree that they bring to the table. This is going to be a team to watch, and that's why I asked you guys to send me some trade suggestions in this video. But really quickly before we get started, if you enjoy content like this, then consider subscribing. I upload basically every single day, and a lot of the time moving forward, it's going to be 2 times a day as well. So it's a great place to be if you enjoy a lot of daily basketball content. And leaving a like rating is a great way to let me know that you're enjoying the content, and it helps out the video a ton as well. A couple things to plug really quickly before we get started. Twitch.tv/Spolo_TD. There's been a lot of momentum over there. It's been great to see people continue to show up every single day, new people every day. If you want to come hang out, that's a great way to do it. And in the Discord server as well, which I've plugged in the last couple of videos, a ton of you have joined over there as well. That's a great place to be in addition to everything else we have going on. With that said, let's go and get started. Okay, first up is a trade that was sent to me over on Twitter from Kay, and he says that the Warriors would be receiving Jrue Holiday, the Pelicans would be receiving Nikola Vucevic, the Magic's first-round pick, and a second-round pick via Detroit from the Warriors, while the Magic receive Andrew Wiggins, the second pick in the draft, and a second-round pick via Utah. So first of all, for the Warriors, I love the Jrue Holiday fit. I really do. I think that that's someone that fits incredibly well with what they want to do. Ideally for them, they're getting, back in a Wiggins trade, they're either getting back a wing that can defend and can shoot or a big man. But Jrue Holiday fits right in there as well as someone that is one of the better 2 guards in the league, one of the better off-ball guards, can play on or off the ball. That fit with Steph Curry is so interesting to me. And sliding Klay Thompson to the 3 is not the end of the world. They can still certainly defend there. They can play Draymond at the 4, Kevon Looney, whoever they get at the 5 spot as well. I really like that fit. Now, you could argue that giving up the second pick in the draft and Andrew Wiggins for Jrue Holiday, you could argue that that isn't a ton of value, but when you're looking specifically at the fit, I really like Jrue Holiday. For the Pelicans, they're getting Nikola Vucevic and a first-round pick that is pretty close to the lottery, and I don't know how I feel about this. Like, the Pelicans have Zion, so that Nikola Vucevic fit in the post is at least a little bit questionable because Zion isn't a great floor spacer. Vucevic can shoot the 3, so maybe he can space the floor for them a little bit. But they have Jackson Hayes as well. Like, I'm not convinced that this is a move that really helps their roster. I feel like right now, if you had to pick one, Jrue Holiday is a better fit for them than Nikola Vucevic, but they're getting Vucevic who they can play or move later, and they're getting a pick, and they're getting a second-round pick, so maybe there's the value there, but strictly as a player, I don't love the Vucevic fit there in New Orleans. And then for the Magic, they're getting Andrew Wiggins, who maybe could still be something. It could be a solid wing for them, and the second pick in the draft, which is huge for them to be able to get someone that could potentially be a huge difference maker for them. They could go into next year adding Andrew Wiggins, adding someone like LaMelo Ball or Anthony Edwards, getting more time for Mo Bamba to develop there in the front court, and that creates a really interesting situation there in Orlando as well. So really the only team that I'm questioning here in terms of why they're involved in this is New Orleans, but it's certainly a very interesting deal, and that's why it's included in this video. Next up now is a trade sent to me by Jeff, and this says that the Jazz will receive Andrew Wiggins, the first pick next year from Minnesota, and the #2 pick in this draft, and a second-round pick in exchange for Rudy Gobert and Joe Ingles. So my first thought when I read this was like, man, that's a lot of value for the Warriors to be giving up. The second pick in this draft, Minnesota could end up being bad next year as well. That's a top 3 protected 2021 pick for Minnesota. Maybe it ends up at 15, maybe it ends up at 4. You never really know. And I was like, man, that's a lot of value to give up for someone in Rudy Gobert that would be a pretty good fit with Golden State in terms of what he does defensively, but he's going to need to be re-signed to a huge deal next year. And Joe Ingles, who's a nice player, but not anything groundbreaking. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, in order for this deal to actually go through, the Jazz are going to need a lot of value. And I don't know if they need to throw in that future Minnesota pick, but probably just Wiggins, the second pick, and the second-round pick are probably not enough to get this deal done, at least in my opinion, because Utah might not be incredibly motivated to move, 2/5 of their starting lineup when they just made a move last offseason to get Mike Conley that made you think that they were really going towards the top of the Western Conference. So that's the weird part for me about this is like, where are the Jazz going with this? Are they admitting, okay, this roster doesn't work, we need to build around the future and around Donovan Mitchell, we're not ready to compete right now? Or are they in a scenario where they're thinking, no, we can't be moving on from these guys, they're too important to our roster right now? And I don't know, that's up to the Jazz. There's no way for me to know, where they're planning on going for this. For Golden State, though, adding these two guys to the roster would make them an even more interesting team. I mean, you're talking about a starting lineup: Steph, Clay, Joe Ingles, Draymond Green, and Rudy Gobert. That's a really, really good lineup. I have every faith that the Warriors would figure out a way to make the Gobert thing work. And, even if he was struggling at times in the postseason, they can run Draymond at the 5. They have the, the flexibility to be able to do that. So again, another really, really interesting trade sent to me. Next up now at number 3 is Josh. And he says that the Warriors would receive Blake Griffin and the 7th pick in the draft. The Pistons would receive Nicholas Batum and the 3rd pick in the draft. And the Hornets would receive Andrew Wiggins and the 2nd pick in the draft. And I believe this is a trade that Josh actually suggested to me on stream as well. And I told him I needed to kind of see it in front of me in a trade machine. And here it is. So for the Warriors, you're basically banking on this idea that Blake Griffin is going to come back and be like an all-star caliber guy, or at least kind of what old Blake Griffin used to look like. Because the Blake Griffin that we saw for a handful of games this most recent season did not look good at all. And I even speculated that Blake Griffin's career in the NBA might be done as like an actually productive player. So there's a good amount of risk involved there. But they're only moving back 5 picks in the draft, and they're swapping out Andrew Wiggins for Blake Griffin. And from a fit standpoint, positionally, you can make the argument that that's a good idea for the Warriors. If you think Blake or Draymond or somebody's going to play the 5, that fit together, you could make that argument. And Blake's a really good passer, which fits well with what the Warriors want to do. The Pistons get the opportunity to move up 4 picks in the draft, and they take on Nicholas Batum, and they get out of the Griffin deal. I think this is a pretty awesome deal for Detroit. It's almost like it should be the other way around, that they're getting out of the Griffin deal and they're moving up 4 slots. It almost seems like they should be moving back 4 slots to get out of the Griffin deal. Love this deal for Detroit. And then for the Hornets, they're moving up, 1 pick, and they're swapping out Andrew Wiggins for Nicholas Batum. I think they're doing well in this deal as well. If they're, if they think they can still get something out of Andrew Wiggins, because they're probably not overly concerned about having cap space, because, who are they really going to go and get in free agency anyway? So they're losing out on some of the cap space that they would get when Batum's contract runs out compared to paying Andrew Wiggins for the next couple of years. They move up a pick in this draft. Really, the only team that I think needs to figure this out is, do the Warriors want Blake Griffin? Do they think that that's a good idea? Do they think it's a good move to move back 5 picks to get Blake Griffin in exchange for Andrew Wiggins? I don't know, but everybody else I think really benefits from this deal. Second to last now is a trade that Kay sent to me over on Twitter, and it says that the Warriors would receive Andre Drummond in the 5th pick in exchange for Wiggins, a 2nd round pick via Dallas, and the 2nd pick in the draft. And this is a pretty similar situation to what we just saw in the previous trade, where the Warriors are thinking, okay, we can still keep a pick, we can still get a good player, we can move back. Maybe we end up getting Denny at 5, which is a player that they're apparently coveting, and we can still get a guy that maybe fits a bit better on this roster. Rather than getting Andrew Wiggins on the perimeter, we can replace that in the draft. We can get somebody to guard. We really need a big guy. We need a really solid rebounding big. And that's exactly what Andre Drummond is. You're moving back 3 slots to get a player that just arguably fits better on this roster in terms of what they really, really need. Now, I'm not a huge Drummond fan. Like, he's a nice rebounder. He can put up some stats and stuff, but I'm not a huge fan in terms of what he does defensively and versatility-wise. But he's a nice player, and he's someone that can really rebound well for them and plug a hole in the starting lineup that I think definitely needs to be addressed. Meanwhile, for Cleveland, they're moving up 3 picks, and they're getting Andrew Wiggins, who's a player that probably fits better with their long-term plans anyway. And they're giving up Andre Drummond in the 5th pick. Like, that makes total sense to me. I don't see any reason why Cleveland wouldn't do this unless they just completely hate Andrew Wiggins and they don't want to pay him over the next couple of years, which, again, similar to Charlotte, I don't know why they would be bothered by that. I don't know what cap space they're really saving for at this point. I don't know who they're going to sign in free agency that's really going to help them. Might as well get a younger player. Might as well get a guy that at least has some potential and upside still in my mind, and move up 3 picks in the draft. It's a no-brainer. And last up now, we have a trade sent to me by Schwartz, and he says that the Pacers would receive James Johnson, the 2nd pick in the draft, and the 1st pick in the draft. The Warriors would get Jeremy Lamb, Miles Turner, and the 2020 Brooklyn pick via the Timberwolves, and the Timberwolves would receive Victor Oladipo and Andrew Wiggins. So there's a lot to unpack here. The first thing that's so interesting to me is that the Indiana Pacers end up with the 1st and the 2nd pick in the draft. Like, they could go and select LaMelo Ball and Anthony Edwards. They've still got Domantas Sabonis. They've got Malcolm Brogdon. How interesting would that be for them to have the 1st and the 2nd pick in the draft? That would be so cool. And they're giving up a lot of value. It's not like they're just being gifted those picks. I mean, they're giving up Jeremy Lamb, Miles Turner, Victor Oladipo. Those are 3 important players for them, obviously. Getting the 1st and 2nd pick in the draft, though, even in a draft class that's weak like this, could be really interesting. The Warriors getting Jeremy Lamb as a player that's hurt right now but can really shoot, can score the basketball, is a nice wing player. And Miles Turner, who's a near perfect fit for them at the 5 spot. Needs to improve as a passer, but outside of that can do a ton of really good things for Golden State. I love the Miles Turner fit, either in Golden State or in Boston. And they're getting a first-round pick as well this year from Brooklyn that they can move or that they can use, to add some depth to this roster as well. So not a bad move for them. Well, Minnesota is giving up, the first-round pick from Brooklyn they have this year and the first pick in the draft. But they're getting back Oladipo and they're getting back Andrew Wiggins, and they're only giving up James Johnson and those 2 picks. And depending on what you think of Victor Oladipo, if you think he's going to come back healthy, if you think he'd re-sign in Minnesota, then that would be a good fit. The problem here, obviously, is Andrew Wiggins is going back to Minnesota, and that doesn't seem like a very likely scenario at all. So this is unfortunately kind of falling apart here at the end in terms of being incredibly realistic, but from an interesting standpoint, I absolutely love this deal. I think Indiana getting both of the top 2 picks in this draft is incredibly interesting. I love the Miles Turner fit in Golden State, and then the Timberwolves are like, hey, we get Victor Oladipo, maybe we end up making some noise, we make the playoffs next year, and we go from there. So it's definitely at least interesting, and I appreciate you sending the note. And yeah, there you have it. That is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you all very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.